as they come in. Cool. We got some room filling up. So yeah, Jen, I don't like for 2 months, I will sweat a
Yeah.
speaking engagement.
Yeah.
Webinars are a little more, a little more casual, but if I know I'm on a stage in front of a couple hundred people, I spoke at one of Coach Joe's things like a year and a half ago, and it was great. It went great, right? Really well received. Carmine, were you at that one in Fort Lauderdale a couple of years ago?
No, my wife and I were away. We missed it.
Okay. So, but yeah, for a month, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Right. So
It's amazing. Well, when you care,
yeah.
and I try to keep telling it's just adrenaline. It's just adrenaline, but it is also the care factor, right? Like some people just are fine with however they present.
Yeah.
You know what fixes that, Charlie?
What's that?
Whiskey.
Listen,
I heard.
We don't
can't prove it.
I heard.
Word on the street is whiskey.
Word on
salted.
the street. Well, I don't
Word
know.
on the
Man.
street.
I don't know. There's a balance there.
Yeah. Well, somebody said to me years ago, I was in my late 20s and I ran the FPA association. So that was like 1,000 members and big crowd, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, your voice always shakes when you start. It's like, how about a shot of scotch? I'm like, seriously? It was like 7:30 in the morning. But yeah.
Hey, whatever it takes. I find honestly, so my remedy for that, or the remedy I try to put in, memorize the first and last 30 seconds. Right. You should be good enough at your topics that you can hit points between. But I've always found the hardest thing to do is wrap up.
Yes.
Right. Like, how do you stop?
That's right.
And so memorize your last 30 seconds. And then
that's right.
Yeah. So
interesting.
So,
well, that's also why you prep in advance, right? You have a little bit of a script so you don't go off the rails and yeah.
All right. I don't, guys, we got people hanging out with us here. So that's awesome. Got the room is filling up. Some familiar names. Brian, how's it going? Tim? You guys, can you see, if you click on where it says participants on the bottom of your screen, you can see who's here.
Look at you, Brian.
Yeah.
Just spoke to Brian yesterday.
Wagner came to learn something today, Carmine. You better impress.
No doubt.
Hi, Brad. Hi, John.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So good. We'll get more that come in. I don't know, Carmine, you want to kick this thing off a little bit?
I don't know. My mother's here. How did my mother get in this Zoom? I mean, I didn't even think she knew how to use Zoom. All right. Well, I know one person's going to enjoy it, or at least tell me that they enjoyed it. Yeah. Sure. So, thanks for everyone joining us today. We have quite a few people in our attendee list. Great. We're talking with Charlie, who is the marketing expert, and Jen Goldman, who I call Jennifer. As an operations expert in our industry. Jen has a great background in the advisory space and has been a consultant to us for about 1.5 years now. And is, and Jen, honestly, every time you send that email to me and my chief operations officer to re-up your 6-month engagement, you could just stop because you're a member of the family now and we're kind of stuck with you. So extremely valuable on the operations side. Charlie's been instrumental on the marketing side. And what's different is about Charlie and Jen, or Jennifer, as I call her, is they have so much advisory industry experience. So Charlie's just not a marketing expert that happens to work with advisors. He has a ton. And Charlie, if you want to just talk, you would give the data better than me. Like, just give an overview of your industry experience.
I hate to say the years because it ages me right away, right? So we'll leave that out of it. But I kind of fell backwards into working with advisors in the late 90s. I guess I just aged myself. It's the last job I got out of the newspaper. I hooked up with a technology company in downtown Duluth, Minnesota, of all places to be. Company called 50 Below that was a pretty good sized brand for a while before they were picked up by Broadridge. And we were doing websites for wirehouses, and it was, doing locators, type in your zip code, find your advisor near you, and that kind of advanced. I worked for another large marketing company after that. And they kind of went the direction of one size fits all, which is really good for compliance departments, but is not very good for advisors. And I didn't really agree with that. So thought I could do it better, right? So I said, I'm going to do this myself. And my wife, Carmen, and I cleaned out the master bedroom, moved a conference table in, opened up a laptop, all right, what the hell do we do now? Right. So that's 11 years ago. And so for the last 11 years, I've been working with independent advisors, RIAs. Mostly we do have some, some captive advisors as well, but for the most part, RIAs and independent advisors to help them tell personal story, build brand, prospect, grow that email list. Yeah, pleasure to work with you and the team at Cornerstone, Carmine. So thank you for that. But yeah, we're having fun every
Great.
day and, trying to do our best to support the people that put their trust in us.
Thanks, Charlie. And before I hand this over to Jen to give her ever growing bio, just two things. One, I was in high school in the late 90s. And two, that didn't age you, the mustache did. So
Okay.
the only mustache joke you're gonna get is that, and I'm done. So Jen, give us an overview on your kind of your journey through the industry, which is super interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, Jen Goldman, it doesn't matter if you want to call me Jennifer, you're fine with that. I have been in the industry a long time. I'm going to try not to age myself, but I might match Charlie's timeline. And I actually started as a financial advisor, and I worked in a wirehouse, got my CFP, went to a fee only Lehman, and kind of split time between VC side and working with ultra high net worth, then went to a family office firm. And that was at the point when online software was really hitting the mark, and processes, and the idea of having an operations manager at the businesses. So a couple more stints, kind of overhauling a couple advisory firms between 50 and 150 employees, and then hung the shingle out. So, and as I joke, emailed my closest 1,500 friends. And ever since then, been consulting around operations and scaling up.
So Jen, do everyone a favor, post your contact info, and Charlie, you as well, and maybe the chat box so people know how to contact you post webinar. But I've been working with, I can vouch for both of these people. They become invaluable to our growing firm. And you see, we like to joke, right? But listen, what they won't do is they give it back to me just as much as I give it to them. They just won't do that today on the webinar, but I don't have a problem doing it.
So
So today it's all about time management and mastering schedule, boosting productivity, boosting profitability to at the firm level. So I know we have a bunch of topics. Charlie, you want to kick off kind of some of the things we want to cover today?
Yeah, so we really kind of broke it down to 4 topics that not only yourself, Carmine, and personal experience in growing Cornerstone, but also Jen and I having the luxury of working with a lot of advisory groups. What are some of the things that we've seen that the best firms are doing? And we talked about time management as one, building the right team. I got a list here, by the way. So profitability, and then finally the client journey. And so I'll lean on you and Jen for that client journey, but I think I can add some to the conversation. Maybe we start, Carmine, with you came out of the insurance world, and that was a very different world to what Cornerstone is today. As we speak about time management, what were some of the issues? What were some of the difficulties you ran into in that? I know you were independent, so to speak. I mean, you ran your book of business, if you will. But what was some of the difficulties around time management in that arena versus where you are today?
So my view on time management is there's no such thing as time management. It's time prioritization, right? Because we can't manage time, but let's start there by, challenging the title, right? That's what I do. When I was at the insurance company side, 17 years as an advisor, time or just running the practice was very hard. We got it done, but the problem is they had sales requirements every year that we had to hit. So from July 1st to June 30th, you had to do X in order to keep your benefits for your family, to keep your payout for you and your team, and things like that. And as much as I wanted to manage the day-to-day or how my week is structured, how my month or how my quarter is structured, there was that elevator music playing in the background. Like, hey, get it. You can do all this stuff. Great. We'll give you all the tools. We'll give you some tools. We'll give you training, but as long as you do X, right? So that hindered my ability to be able to really manage a practice the way I thought. And let me give an example on an impact. So advisors tend to have, and they should have, what your ideal client profile or what a client avatar looks like. Net worth of this, investable assets of this. And when you're in a sales required environment like the insurance company world, you're forced to work with clients that do not fit your avatar, because you got to check that box, right? To have your place within that company and make sure your family's taken care of, and revenue, right? To pay your staff. So that was a huge conflict of interest for me. And it got worse as the years went on, as the practice got more complicated. And then the limitations on technology. I mean, I can't imagine running a practice today in that confined environment, like an insurance company or a wirehouse, where, you can't use Calendly to schedule appointments. I mean, to me, it's a simple technology that, allows us to scale. You talk about wasting time on stuff. There are so many great techs out there. We have 26 technologies. I had to count them the other day, that, at the RA level, that are all integrated together, that more than half of those we couldn't use. Yeah. So very hard to help with time management in that confined environment.
Agreed. Jen, you got any special tools that you use, or the firms that you work with use for managing time?
Yeah, I'll tack on to Carmine's comment. Obviously, I'm big into tech tools for anybody that knows me. And so the Calendys, GRE reminders, those type of tools. The other thing is, this is like a mindset. Understanding that if you're in a role of being a leader like Carmine is, or you, Charlie, or me for our businesses, that we can't spend all day on one area of the business. We have to switch around. So this is going to sound very old school, but seeing a little visual pie chart of understanding that part of your day is biz dev, part of your day is team, part of your day is clients, and seeing that over and over again. And by the way, 66 days of that, it'll embed in your brain. And then you'll start to be okay with, instead of feeling frazzled, you'll realize that is my MO.
That's the nature, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, that visual. The other it's not a little trick, actually, it's a big trick. This idea of being in an environment where you might be trying to protect your time, but others don't honor your time. So for those of you that are remote, this is a whole different animal, but let me just address, if you're in an office, putting up the hours, your office hours. It's the idea of close your door, I'm not available. Open your door, I am. Something visual. For remote, this is a funny, obviously you can put out of office, or just taking a break in Slack, or whatever tool you're using. And if you have, for some that still have home offices, I used to use LED lights, and the LED lights would let you know your other parties around you in the home would not bother you. So it was like a running joke. If it was red, please, I'm on the air. Don't walk in. Yeah. So again, you'll notice a lot of visualization.
Yeah, that's cool. So I actually have the on-air thing back here, which used to function when we were recording podcasts, right? We had it synced up. I don't even know what happened with that, but it really didn't, my kids would bust in anyway, Jen. Of course, we focus at Social Advisors, a lot of our focus on automation, right? Automating operational functions of the business, mostly marketing automation, LinkedIn front end stuff, automating email, building out lead development tools like lead magnets. So I think, as far as that's concerned, CRM is probably one of the most important tools you can use. Now, I don't know that Wealthbox and Redtail check that box so much, but there's some great external CRMs that are more prospecting and business development focused. High Level is a great one. Carmine, I know we're running some automation for you guys through Constant Contact. And so being able to automate some of those routine tasks that you do every single day, or take the business development and, cut your time and cut 80% of the time investment out of it. So just using CRM to automate is so helpful. So.
Yeah. Then we were just on earlier with Carmine's team. A lot of you may or may not have heard, and we can't use this. So for those of you who can't, I do feel very sad for you, honestly, but there's tools like make.com and Zapier and others, and that just brings automation to a whole new level, and it's no code. So there's no programming involved. It's pretty rudimentary. But those are just humongous time savers and time protectors.
Yeah, for sure. Even like a number of the people who are here responded to an invite on LinkedIn. Now the problem with LinkedIn events are awesome. So if you guys are promoting an event, LinkedIn events are a great way to do that. But someone can say, yes, they're interested on LinkedIn. And if they don't click that registration link, they're not registered, right? So you've got to rely on them clicking that registration link, or use Zapier to hook up LinkedIn events with Zoom, right? Just the simple act of registering for a webinar or an event. So these are, I think I don't know what our subscription level is, Jen, for Zapier, but suffice it to say, we got a pretty good subscription there. We're running a lot of Zaps. So, Carmine, running the RIA, how do you prioritize your time? What's Jen talked about a pie chart. I love that. Right. So you can know maybe where that time goes. What's most important, right? There's a lot of urgent needs in a day. How do you prioritize that?
I prepare, and it's weird, depending on the day. I still manage a small amount of households as an advisor, and that's slowly going away. As my role as CEO operator is, or as we're growing, and the role of CEO / operator becomes really the focus. So many people make this mistake, but my prep for the day starts the day before. So I have a night routine and a morning routine. And I find no matter what is on that calendar during that day, if my night routine and my morning routine, I'm going to go through them. If I check those boxes, I can have 8 client reviews or 4 advisor meet, doesn't matter. So at night, my gym clothes go in my bathroom. My garment bag is hanging right by my garage door. So I literally have to wake up, get changed in my bathroom, and then grab my garment bag, go to the car, and I'm good, right? That day. What I also do the night before is I review the meetings that I have for the next day. And I visualize what ideal outcome do I want for each one of these meetings. I did it yesterday. And I went through all my notes from the things that we discussed prior. And I just, for me, and so many people don't do this. And I just want to stress the importance. And by the way, I didn't make this up. I read it somewhere. I don't remember. I can't even give the person credit. It's the difference between owning the day or the day owning you. Because there were days before I had the discipline to do this, my morning routine, where I'd go to the office, not really sure what I was doing that day. And guess what? The day runs you. Yeah. And when I know what I need to do and I visualize ideal outcomes, and sleeping on it's important because our subconscious mind will then kind of work in the background. There isn't a day that, there's maybe 4 or 5 meetings scheduled where there's a curveball and I'm prepared. I'm good to go. It's just so many people don't do it, and you guys can make the decision to own the day. Yeah. And I think that makes a big difference.
I love it. I love it. Jen, how about you? You got all kind of client demands.
Yeah. That was so well said. And the only thing that I do in addition is I actually type a lot. Now, I happen to be a very good typer, and I've realized most people aren't. I was taught at a young age on an old style typewriter, dated myself again there. And actually was paid for typing in college. So the point is, though, I type to visualize. And by doing so, it automatically starts prioritizing. Like I think about, as I'm typing, what's the benefit of doing this? What's the output? So I'm following what Carmine said, 100% lock and step. To be fair, the only reason I also type is as I'm typing, I'm thinking, how can I idiosis? How can I delegate it? How can I eliminate it? How can I outsource it? Like give it to one of my providers? How can I give it to somebody on my staff? So I'm going through this methodology in my brain. And again, I put words to it, IDOs, just to help me through. And that really narrows down what I'm going to focus on and what everyone else is going to be doing.
Delegation's tough, huh? I find that most people, and myself included, I've gotten better at it over the years. Delegation was really hard for me when it was, went from me and then me and Carmen, and then we actually had our first 2 employees were coming to work in our master bedroom, which it wasn't as weird as it sounds. It wasn't actually set up as a bedroom, but as the team has grown, I've had to get a lot better at delegating tasks. We all think it can't be done as well as we can do it, right? Carmine, has that been a struggle as the RIA grows? Delegation.
Weirdly, no. And I think it has a lot to do with having standard operating procedures as I'd say the second. The first is knowing the people I'm delegating to are more than capable than I am to do most of the things I'm delegating. Or let me challenge it, all the things I'm delegating. That I surround myself with much more capable people. And Jen knows of my team very well, and she's holding back laughter because she knows that just about everyone that I delegate to for those certain things are much better at it than I am.
Yeah.
But I think it really starts with your team. The second is expectation. I know once this project goes here, we have again that SOP that says, here's how I'm kept updated with what's going on in status.
Yeah.
But I know what to expect. And 9 out of 10 times is exactly what I thought it would be. Okay. And there is some delegation apprehension. But I'll tell you this, any operator or any entrepreneur advisor out there, it'll never be 100%.
Yeah.
You will never, but solve for the 95% of the time and be happy with that, and deal with the 5% of the time where you have to make minor adjustments. You cannot grow alone. Show me one very successful person that did it alone. They don't exist.
Nope.
They don't.
For those attending, if you've got any tools or tips around time management, please put it in the chat. If you got questions, like put them out there, right? So I got lots of questions for these guys. So we're not short of short for conversation here. And in fact, I'm going to bounce around a little bit because kind of we talked about team and delegation. We're going to talk about profitability, but let's talk team first. The largest social advisors has been is 13 people. And I'll tell you, it was a freaking mess. You guys, it was like, we do more with 6 really good people now than we did a few years ago with 13. Like, so the team really, really matters. Carmine, as you're building, what are some of the qualities you're looking for in people that you're adding to the team, whether they be advisors or operations staff, whatever it might be? What qualities do you find?
People that are looking to learn and grow, and I don't even care, learn and grow in what way, shape, or form, doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I am a big proponent of personal development. I have been for many years, and I attribute where I am today to, right now I have 3 business coaches, right? And I spend, more than I used to make a year just on personal development here, and I track it, and I make sure I hit that bogey every year because it's that important. And my team does the same thing. So I have 2 of the 2 staff people that are taking their CFP exams this year. They're going on in multiple conferences, but I love the fact that here's something. One of our team members, we have our core values. Unbeknownst to any of us, she had them made on in Vista print, and they're now hanging in her office. And that's a cultural match for me all day long, right? Our dopamine release here is impact, whether that's advisor impact or client impact. And that's what I look for. People that, when Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human emotions, contribution and growth have to be those top 2, or should be those top 2 in an organization like ours. If there's somebody that craves significance, they're not a good match. And in fact, we've had multiple people that significance is their highest emotion, and it's like, hey, it's just a no-go. But in me as the leader, it's my responsibility to make sure that anyone that is invited into our family meets that criteria. But it's also my responsibility if someone falls out of that, to make the hard decisions as a leader. I mean, we follow extreme ownership framework. We get training every week by Echelon Front around extreme ownership and leadership training. And whether that's the administrative person that mans the front desk answering the phone to a lead advisor, we're all leaders. It doesn't matter. You're a leader in your own role. So take the leadership and take the ownership out of leadership. No matter what role you play, you're a leader. And that's what we had we had an error happen a few weeks ago, and the mantra is the same. We win as a team, we lose as a team. This is our loss. This is not that person's loss. We do after action reports whenever something goes wrong. Hey, we don't do that to make sure we solidify where the finger should be pointed. We do it to say, where's the thread and how do we change our SOPs to make sure this doesn't happen again? Sure enough, there was one thing that we changed. Email went out, our SOP got changed, our workflow got changed, our CRM, and it'll never happen again. So I look for people that want to learn and grow, but then also can look at this environment and go, wow, this is different than my last 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 10 jobs.
Yeah.
Much different environment.
Yeah. That's cool. Adds confidence for sure. Yeah. Jen, how about you? As you know, I know that you work with very large teams. I'm not sure how big your team is with My Virtual COO. But speak to that. What's some of the most important qualities that you look for when adding to the team?
No, so I'll piggyback on Carmine, who always says it great. I'll also look for the roll up the sleeves attitude. You know, when you come and we're a very lean team, we believe in being lean and we believe in businesses being lean, right? Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has roles and responsibilities. Be as clear as possible on those. And so, but you've got to be willing to roll up your sleeves. There's nobody that is not going to be asked to take out the garbage every once in a while. Okay. There's nobody that isn't going to be asked to give a little bit more to that client when they're, psychologically on the edge and need an operational win. It's just part of the game here and part of our purpose. So that's what we look for. I have to admit, though, it's not been easy to assess that. It used to be an old mentor, Linda Brady, we joke, can they do a puzzle? Because the type of work we do is putting together all the pieces, right, and sequencing. So we had a puzzle kind of assessment. Now we use PXT, which, is we went through DISC and Gallup and God knows there's so many different assessments out there. Frankly, I'm searching for the next one that talks about dyslexia and executive functioning and those types of things, right? Like there is the culture and there's the feeling, right? Like what your purpose is and how you want to roll up your sleeves, but then there's the mental capacity and ability.
Sure.
And I think that matters too. It can be very frustrating. And at least, again, I'll speak for businesses that are growing and changing at the same time. Your brain has to operate a certain way to be in that environment and feel like you're part of the team and adding value, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're getting close to that in the industries. I think the assessments are coming out and soon they'll be affordable for the smaller businesses, which is so important. I mean, Microsoft and Google and those guys have it. Why not us?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Agreed. I would add, and this is maybe specific to the type of business we run, a curiosity, right? So because technology changes so fast, right? And we're all, knee deep or waist deep in AI. And one time management tool that I've been playing with is called Motion AI. And it really is helpful for time blocking on the calendar. I just thought I'd add that from our last topic. But a curiosity, and maybe it's an innovative curiosity, right? Looking for that next greater efficiency. So now that's got to couple with a whole bunch of other stuff, right? That roll up your sleeve and
right, but not be afraid of change, right? Not be afraid. Right. And I think that's where people come into play. They're afraid of the change because they fear how it changes their value. It changes their responsibilities. And so in this idea of having great people on your team, there's one thing to assess and hire. Then there's another thing to keep them engaged and keep them feeling valuable. That is a whole nother animal that you really have to tackle. So no, I agree wholeheartedly with you about this openness, this learning stuff, but it's really about change.
Yeah, agreed. I think a lot of people who are used to a 9-to-5 type position are in a protection mindset, right? I got to protect what I've got. I find that when we go do, say, a marketing assessment at a firm, right? The person in charge of that today is worried about their job. I walk through the door and they go, "Oh, are you here to replace me? I don't want your job," right? But I feel like finding somebody outside of that mode, they're there to protect. Well, we need growth, right? So we got a couple comments, a couple questions. Jay added on time management, live and die by your workflows. Right. So, just knowing what the process is. And Carmine, you spoke to that. Brian has a question, but also point out the chat is disabled. So, Carmine will work on the Zoom settings for our next one. But so if you got a question, put it in the Q&A. But Brian has a question for you, Carmine, if you have a template for your SOPs.
I do. And Brian will see them as soon as he comes to visit me next month. I'm sorry, in May.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Very cool. Any effective strategies for keeping a team motivated?
I'll give one.
Jen, go for it.
Go for it.
Okay, so in line with the team, keeping them motivated is keeping them knowing their responsibilities.
Yeah.
This overlap, this lack of it comes up with every business we work with, right? And it's because you're changing. For example, like let's say you refine a process. Well, that changes who does what or how they do it, right? So I think keeping them motivated is also making them feel valued, but understanding their value. And so the little technique that we use, we love this, Carmine knows, I'm all into this, is we use lucid boarding. And we actually do tile exercise, right? Okay, Carmine, I see that's near. And it's about everyone jumping in together and filling this out and putting their little tiles of the responsibilities and then having those like aha moments. I love it when the aha moments are like, oh, I didn't realize you were doing that, or you were doing this, or we have duplication. So that's our little trick.
I find when there's a firm that's growing, everybody has the same job. I mean, mistakenly, right? Everybody gravitates towards what needs to get done and what needs to get done now instead of actually running their roles within the business. So Jen, why don't you connect with Matt Beckett, has some questions for you specifically about your role within firms. So we'll take that offline a little bit, but connect with Matt when we wrap up here. So, we've been through EOS a couple times. Anybody done Gino Wickman's? Yeah, Traction. I find, so we have a fun kind of staff meeting. Nobody likes staff meetings. Well, maybe people do. I don't know, but it's an hour, right? We got a small team, right? So it's an hour on Monday. What did we accomplish last week? What are we, what's the goals for this week? We take some time to have some fun together as well. Most of us are remote, right? So that's important touch point time. But also I find that my clear communication on vision is so important for rallying motivation, right? For keeping the team motivated. It really is about my ability to share vision for the company. So everybody knows the direction we're headed in. That seems to be really, like on a weekly basis, just not that it changes that frequently, but just making sure that we reiterate vision. Everybody's marching in step with that. Carmine, anything special that you guys do at Cornerstone just to kind of keep the team rallied and motivated?
Oh, EOS, we've been following EOS for years. You call it EOS, we call it EOS.
Sure.
Tomato.
Zapier.
Yeah. Well, maybe you guys can explain to me what a ZAP is after this call, because I'd love to know.
Happy to.
So our 4 core values are front and center, which is great. And our annual, what we want to do that year, what's important, like our 1-year goals are there. Like keeps everybody engaged and that everyone's not siloed in their own job. The second is following the extreme ownership, 4 laws of combat, and that gives us almost like a day-to-day operation. So I look at EOS as like, strategic planning, where extreme ownership is how do you react to something going wrong right now,
okay.
Right? So let me give you an example. We had a small issue a couple months ago, and comes up in our meeting. Hey, this happened. Let's dissect it. And I had 3 people on our team fighting who was taking ownership of that mistake. No, it was me. No, it was me. It was clearly me. And I said, well, are we fighting to take who's wrong? But at the end of the day, it's we just had an issue with an advisor that runs our Tallahassee office, follows extreme ownership as well. We're very close. And there was an issue with the task being assigned a certain way. And he says, I take ownership of this. Someone needs to do differently. And I had to talk him off the let, like, no, it was our mistake. We already fixed it. And your team did everything right. That's the culture I want, because what's a normal reaction in a non-optimal environment? That's not my fault.
Yeah.
The CRM goof, it's taking ownership. But maybe people take ownership too fast here and say, oh, pump the brakes, wasn't your fault. But I like that as an initial reaction. Like, what could have I done differently? Because if we don't constantly question the way we're doing things day to day, we're never going to get better, ever.
Agreed.
And I always challenge. So we had a Monday meeting yesterday, and one of my staff people said, hey, I want to make changes to this. We live and die by workflows, like Jay said in the chat. Hey, I want to make changes to this workflow. What do you think? I go, what do you think? Who am I to tell you if you feel this workflow is going to work better? Don't need my permission. Go. Do it. And that's the environment that I love. And it's funny to see people grow outside of the 9 dots of, hey, let me just do my job and check the box.
Mm-hmm.
I had someone say this to me, like, hey, you're paying for all this money for training for your staff. What if they leave? Right? I don't want to pay all this money. What if they leave? And I read this in a book, and it's and it said, hey, what if we don't train them and they stay?
Yeah.
Right. And that was real heavy when I read it, because it kind of solidified the reason why I have no issue spending any amount of money on personal development for my team.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's how we keep the staff engaged.
Yeah. You're talking about empowerment, right? My first job out of college with my history degree was running the front office of a big Radisson Inn property. Hospitality taught me a lot for the couple of years I did it. And I had a general manager of this $16 million hotel property. Gave me my first lesson in empowerment. Said the only mistake is not making a decision, right? Especially I'm working 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. If you don't make a decision, we can't move forward. If you make a decision, it's either going to be the right decision or the wrong decision. If it's the wrong decision, we can learn from that, right? Then you're only going to do that once, right? So really important to me as well as the empowerment that you were speaking to, right? You want to change this workflow? It's your workflow. Change the workflow, you know? So empowering people to actually help you move your business forward instead of tasking them and then scolding them if they don't do it right. Right. So, yeah, maybe it's an old mindset. I don't know. So, listen, you guys, I'm keeping an eye on the clock, right? So we booked an hour. I want to make sure we got time at the end if anybody's got some additional questions. So again, anybody who's joining us, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. But when it comes to building team, motivating your team, if you've got any comments on this stuff, or if you've got anything that we haven't commented on that you would like us to, or that you want to add to the conversation, please put it in the Q&A and we'll get to that. Guys, let's talk about profitability. Right. This is we're all growing businesses here. Carmine, coming out of that large kind of institutional environment, if you will, to an RIA, to creating your RIA, you've had to learn a little bit about, I think, is it commonly referred to as wallet share? Right. So that's a pretty common term, right? I don't know. I use it like it's common, maybe not, but you've got clients that have assets elsewhere. How do you are there strategies that you use to make sure that you've got the most profitability out of clients? How do I say that without sounding like we're doing something, right? I don't mean to make it sound that way, but how do we maximize the revenue at the RIA by focusing on your client base?
It really depends on, my mantra has always been for 21 years, you help people get what they want, you'll get everything that you want. So put profit aside, money aside, and it'll work out, and it always has. We're a planning focused firm. We do, all of our advisors charge fees for planning. When you're in these larger shops, a lot of them don't even allow you to do financial planning. So I think that there is a really good opportunity there because, let's put the money aside. I've been charging fees I got clients of mine that are paying annual retainers going on 18 years now. And the impact that financial planning does is so impactful to the client that, it's a win-win for everyone, especially for the client. Because they're gonna have a bigger financial impact in their financial lives than the fee will ever be. Multiples of that, right? Yeah. I see that as something that a lot of advisors they don't see. I'm actually doing a webinar with a firm from the operators in my one of my mastermind groups. He said, "Hey, my advisors are having problems really having that fee discussion. Can you do a workshop?" So I'm doing a workshop tomorrow about this. It really helps. Financial plan just gives the clients all the information they need to make a very intentional decision. The other thing is held away assets. So we may be, managing assets for a client, but what if their largest assets, their retirement plan? Right. So now we have the capability to be able to actively manage that for that client. And we rolled this out last year, and the amount of people that are interested was much more than we anticipated because, their logic is, well, you're managing everything else. This is a large chunk, maybe my largest chunk of money. Yeah. And there's no accountability, no oversight on it, other than maybe me bringing you a statement and saying, hey, what can we do here? Now we're able to sit in the driver's seat. And again, I think the take rate was much higher than I anticipated, but to the clients, it was a no-brainer. Like, yeah, of course I'd hire you to do this piece. You're doing everything else. You might as well do it. So those are the two things I think a lot of people overlook. But being in those constrained environments don't allow you to charge fees for planning. And most firms certainly don't allow you to manage outside assets. So, and a benefit of being in a client first type of entity like an RIA like ours.
Yeah, I love it. And so we've got the podcast on the side. Carmine, you've been a guest. Jenna, you should be a guest. Usually it's advisors or heads of RIAs, but you got a lot to lend to the conversation. So we'll have to schedule that. Gosh, my point in all that got totally sidetracked. And then
Well, no, can I jump in on this?
Please
Because
do. Yeah. Because
if you don't mind, I mean, listen, I'll give a couple things, and this could be a little bit mind blowing, but I'll go out on the edge on this. So first of all, what Carmine said, absolutely spot on. Again, and I'm not just saying that. Obviously, I believe in what Carmine and his team are doing. The other thing too is if you're in an extreme environment, I don't think you can do this, but I'm going to mention it anyway. There are so many firms that are using net wealth aggregation systems. So, we talk about let's help our next gen, right? But they don't have a lot of money. They can't pay fees. Well, how do you groom the world of our next set of clients up to be honest with you? And these aggregation systems, I used to say Mint, but it doesn't exist. So like Monarch Money or Personal, there's all these tools out there where you don't have to do the work as the advisor firm, and they can start to really see their net wealth. And let me tell you, when they see it, it grows. It becomes almost a little bit of an addiction of like, wow, look at how great I am. And that's when they become a valuable client to you. And frankly, a profitable client. Yeah. So I love what Carmine's saying. That's what I'm seeing, other advisors are doing, other non-constrained advisor firms. And then the other thing I'm seeing now is RA firms are adopting what they do for their own internal firm externally. So for example, let's say you have a marketing arm and you're doing all this marketing out to your potential clients. Well, guess what? You have an entire client base of business owners that also have to do marketing. So what they're now doing is saying, you know what? I'm going to bring that marketing arm in-house. I'm going to build it, but I'm not going to just build it for us. I'm going to build it for my business owner clients. Yeah. So they're hearing what their clientele needs. There's other firms, they're hearing that obviously women in transition, right? And so what are they bringing in? A psychology team. I know these sound so out of the cusp, but if you have a niche or an area that you absolutely love and you're not constrained, then these are the things that you could do to really up the revenue and also keep it very profitable.
Well, and bringing it back to what Carmine said first, right? It's about providing value.
That's right.
Right. And so you provide more value in all those examples. We work with a couple of advisors who have actually, for the next generation, gone to a subscription model. Like the assets aren't there for the fee to even matter at this point, but being able to charge a couple $100 a month and meeting quarterly to make sure that they're on the right path until the assets amount to something. That's been like, really significant for a couple of clients, whereas that's what they market more than anything else right now. And I hate to say low hanging fruit, but it's a really easy, zero friction way of bringing on new clients.
Think about your clients that have those young professionals. Now they're feeling even more value because you're taking care of their next generation, which then lets them relax and focus on what they should, which could be into your benefit too. I mean, it's just such a win-win.
Yeah, I agree. So many creative thoughts. That's awesome. Jen, good ideas. I love it.
Not mine. And listen, I'm watching the tea leaves, right? Like I'd love to take credit, but but you have to be in a certain place profitable. You have to know your numbers, right? And there's this cobbler shoe effect, right? We know the numbers of our clients, but we don't know our own numbers. You have to know the numbers and map it out. But again, once you do that, you know what is possible, and it's just being creative then. Yeah.
That's awesome. Carmine, you give us a good segue into our next client journey conversation, our next segment of the conversation, client journey. You mentioned you got clients paying you retainer for 18 years. How does that happen? Right. I mean, is there I don't know, do you do something special that, helps retain these clients 18 years in a row? I mean, that's quite a relationship.
Yeah, yeah. So every household has a person that's kind of their go-to. It could be an attorney, could be an accountant, could be whatever.
Sure.
These relationships started when these clients, one is a business owner. Well, they both are business owners, and their lives were complicated financially and just generally. And initially, and we've streamlined their life. We got them on savings plans. We clarified what their win is, and by the way, their goals change almost every year. But with both of those, there's two relationships that have the longest subscription model with me. They're both 18 years. And the one thing in common is when stuff hit the fan in their family life and their personal life, one of their first calls was to me.
Yeah. Awesome.
And within a day or two, I was in front of them. Nothing financial. There wasn't a single piece of paper. No, it's there because these people were not clients, they're friends.
Yeah.
And, helping one of them retire years earlier than anticipated, and just helping the one today selling their business, moving to Florida. That was his dream. And seeing those things materialize, if you went to them and said, hey, look, and I'm sure with the amount of wealth these clients had, they've been approached by other advisors.
Sure.
And I think they're at the point now where like, well, we wouldn't, like, it's a relationship that's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And we can screw up pretty bad. Am I allowed to curse? I don't really care. We could screw up pretty bad with that relationship. There's so much relationship capital built up for the things that we've done over the 18 years that it would take a really horrific event for them to say, look, we got to part ways.
Yeah.
So I think I do nothing different than other advisors. Software generation for financial plans, we do a hell of a good job managing assets, but I think more along the lines of managing expectation. I think this is a big thing advisors don't do, is letting a client know when are they getting. We have an onboarding call after a client onboard. Hey, here's what your statement's going to look like, just to give you an overview. Here's what our client portal looks like. Here's your review months in March and September. These are the months we'll review. That means in February and August, you're going to get an email from Jessica. She's going to send you a link. But these are our two outbounds. We're your 911, your 411 in the other 10 months. So don't think you're predicated to just these two reviews. But setting that client expectation, I think a lot of people miss the mark. If they're in the volume game, they don't have the time to stop and say, hey, thank you for choosing me. Here's the team. Here's what to expect. Go back to that constrained environment where you had to sell that stuff in that 12-month period. You didn't have time to properly educate a client. You just didn't.
Yeah. I find it difficult, like in working with a variety of advisors. When we first engage, advisors might have, obviously A and B clients, but C and D. And I cringe, with that ranking. Fine if you got A and B. The C and D, I cringe. Like, these people aren't deserving of your time. Why would you even be serving them as a client, right? And in an environment like a large wirehouse, you got to do it because you need the assets.
You hit it.
Yeah, you've got to do it because you need the assets. I had a coaching client one time. This was our last coaching call. Told me he took on 2 households that were literally 10 and 15% of what his minimum was. His minimum was, like, he was in Manhattan. He'd been an advisor for 30 years, like a 2.5 minimum. He took a $300,000 household for a bonus. And I was like, dude, you can't do that stuff, right?
Who loses in that scenario?
Yeah, the client, right?
The client. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we all have a fiduciary responsibility, whether you got the CFP or whatever that is, right?
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Jen, you've got the luxury of seeing a lot of firms from an operations perspective. Are there any tips about, keeping clients engaged? How do you go from new client to that type of relationship that Carmine's talking about?
Yeah. Well, what Carmine probably doesn't give himself credit for is the fact that he listens and he thinks through the process. So, I think that I can't say that enough. So I'm going to go back to go forward. Most businesses don't think about the client journey fully. And what they don't do is they don't role play. They don't put themselves in the potential client, like the lead or the prospect of the client's shoes, to understand how many clicks is that person being asked to click. How much homework are you asking that person to do before they even sign with you? How much humanization have they experienced from you? Like Carmine, you guys can all tell, right? The minute you meet him, you feel his energy, you understand, you know what I mean? You feel that level of trust. That doesn't exist all the time. So, you know, all I can say is if you haven't gone through the journey and literally wrote out what you're asking that person to go through, what they see first, second, third, and fourth, that's not going to bode well. But you may not see it right away. You might see it over time. And that's also what the guy that unfortunately had to take the 10%, you know, the 300,000. Where's the accountability in that? And realizing where they're going to drop the ball along the way, right? It's because it's all up here.
And that's that's a firm mentality, right? I mean, that's a top-down thing. That's the firm saying, if you close households, we'll give you X, X bump in revenue, whatever that X is.
That's right.
And so the client actually comes third, right?
But you have to stay strong. See, maybe it's not fair, but when I started in business, okay, I was eating like, the ramen noodles every night. Okay. That's all I could afford. But I know how to close the book. Like when somebody came in and boy, was I hungry for business. And this was at a wirehouse. God love them. They gave great training, but in terms of metrics, it was horrible. Right. And I said, absolutely not. If you're not going to be with me, your entire net wealth, if you're not going to value the fee and you're not going to work with me comprehensively, I'm out. This is not a good match. And I literally needed the money. I'm not joking. I think that's because, and I wrote it down. I wrote down who I wanted to work with, how I wanted to work with them, and what experience I wanted them to have. And that was the end.
I'll take it a step further, Charlie, too, is, and this drives my team crazy. Maybe it doesn't, but I think it does. So stealing a page, Dan Sullivan was my coach from 2009 to 2011, re-engaged with this 10X program, and Strategic Coach is a great program, but they talk about front stage, backstage. So front stage is everything a client will ever see, hear, feel, touch, take, anything, right? The backstage is the chaotic stuff that happens in the background. So literally to what a PDF report is labeled or saved as a name, I want everything in that everything front stage to be perfect. Why? We could control that. That's an easily controllable environment. We're in control. We can control how our background looks for our Zoom. We can control the value, the quality of our microphone for our Zoom calls and how our conference room looks. We cannot control if the client's happy about the market or whatever. We need to control the controllable. So down to what that PDF is saved as. If that name, I built Cornerstone using empathy, and I say it all the time because, hey, if I were an advisor, what would the firm need to look like for me to be happy to bolt on, right? So but the client experience is the same way. To Jen's point, so we were toying with an idea of using a different onboarding program to onboard new clients. So the first thing is every staff person had to go through it, give us feedback. And guess what? We scrapped it because they said, this is much harder than our last one. Too many clicks, too complicated. The NIGO rate is higher. It's going to screw up our client onboard experience. We're out. Scrap it. So if people aren't using empathy to build the practice, man, I mean, you talk about something that costs nothing to do and can have the biggest impact. If any takeaways from today, get in your client's seat, see what they're seeing, see what they're hearing. The quality of your mic, little stupid things like that. That means a lot to me because I can control it.
I love it. You got me looking around like, is the snowboard's okay? I mean,
believe me, I'm going to get into your stuff after this call, pal. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, Carmine, I need some coaching, man. How's the mic? Is this thing on?
No, you're good.
You guys, this is a great conversation. It really is. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of it. I appreciate it. There's so much wisdom, Jen, from the many clients that you serve now and have served over the years. Carmine, from starting off in that that large, really metric driven environment to where you've come with Cornerstone. Kudos to you and your team there. I'm privileged to have the opportunity to work closely with Jay and Tom and the rest of the crew. So that's great. I guess I asked for parting words here. We're kind of at the top of the hour. But Jen, if there's anything, advisors listening and They want to create a firm that is world-class, give a couple of nuggets for them to focus on.
Yeah,
Put you on the
don't be
spot.
so critical. Don't worry about failing, and just write down what you dream of.
Love that. Carmine, can you do better than that?
If I could do it, you can do it. That's basically
No,
what I'll say.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility as a leader to train, to educate your staff, your team, to what the vision of the organization is, what the mission is. That's our responsibility. It's your responsibility to train them. It's your responsibility if they're not able to perform. It's your responsibility to retrain, ask earnest questions, get to the bottom of the issue, retrain again. But it's also your responsibility to graduate someone out of the organization if they don't fit. We unfortunately had to do this in January. Jen knows, someone that's been with me a long time. And what you'll find is if your business is growing fast, you're going to have some people that grow with the business. You have some people that will not grow their capabilities as fast as we're growing. And that's what happened. And it was a shame because it was a fantastic person on our team, but it just wasn't a fit. And I find that a lot of people in our industry have a victim's mentality. Well, the market's down. Well, this has happened. Well, my firm won't allow me to do this. No, take ownership, look in the mirror. And if you could tell yourself the truth like I did, and what a lot of people should do, tell yourself the truth. And then, the vision is clear, decisions are easy. Map out that, like Jen said, map it out. What's your dream look like? Okay, reverse engineer it. Can you do it at your firm? Yes or no? Easy question. If it's a no, start looking. The barrier to entry to become independent has never been lower. It's never been easier before. You have so many resources out there that can help you with, there's recruiter, there's so many different things. I'm just, kind of ticked off. It took me 17 years to realize how easy it was. But I'm not going to go back and regret anything that happened because I wouldn't change a thing because it was a rocky road. The book is coming out in Q3 of this year, which will go over the rocky road of my departure, which you both know. But at the end of the day, if your major concern is client impact, make sure you're tethered to a company that has the same value as you. If you don't, you may not have conflict today. Like for me, over 17 years, there was no conflict in the beginning, and it just grew and it grew and it grew. It will grow over time. And the one thing anyone that's went independent has said in common is, I wish I did it sooner.
Wish I'd have done it sooner. Yep.
So that's a long ass parting comment, but I apologize.
No,
but
it's great. It's great.
I do want to thank both of you because you guys are friends, and this isn't a vendor relationship by any stretch, right? And I love the fact that we can have these conversations. You guys have been so instrumental in helping us. So I urge anyone, reach out if you have a marketing question or need, or if you just need help with operations, getting your house in order. What I do love about Jen is there's no coddling with Jen or Jennifer.
That's true.
She's called me out. She's called me out on my stuff so many times I can't even imagine. And I would get off a call with her and look at my COO and say, we pay her to talk to me like that. But at the end of it, I need to be talked to like that because the only way it sinks in. But I mean, I can't say enough about these two people. They've been a great partner of ours, and please reach out. You will not be disappointed.
Thank you,
Carmine. You asked for those type of relationships, and I think that's what people need to hear. No, that's what people need to hear, right? Good people surround with good people, and that's how you keep it going. And that's the same with your team. They stay engaged because they're around good people, which is you. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you, Jennifer.
Each other.
You're welcome, Carmine.
So I wrote down a lot. So you got, I looked down to check questions, but like I got scribbled this whole paper. I mean, so the one thing, if the vision is clear, the decisions are easy. Like I will internalize that. That's an awesome, awesome statement. So great to see you guys.
Well, think about it. If you had to make a decision, but you didn't know what the end game was, how the hell
how do you make
a decision?
It's
a coin toss.
It's simply put, right? It's very simply put, but it's so poignant.
It is. Right. It's simple, but it's not easy. That's the difference. Like, following a macro diet. Here's your calories, your fat, your carbs, and your protein per day. Yeah. Simple, right? Oh yeah, no, simple. Not easy.
Not easy. Yeah.
So just identifying those things in life that are, but it's, to me, that's low hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. The how is out there, right? It's what separates the people that really break through are the people that raise their hand and they say, I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to put in the time. I'm willing to grind it out because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to have what I want. And that's a disconnect I see, is that I hate my firm. We'll leave. Well, I got to I got to do this. I got to get this I got to move offices. Then, I just can't help you.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. Jen, Carmine, good to see you guys.
You too.
Thank
For
you.
those who were able to hang out, thanks for that too. An hour of your day, appreciate it. We'll get the replay process, get that out tomorrow. And Carmine, we've got the 6 or 7 page time balance document will be available with that replay. So
Beautiful.
yeah. So that'll be good to go.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Carmine. Thanks, Jen. Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
See you.